Let me know when we're ready.
Good morning. The meeting is now streaming live. So whenever Janine and you, Scott, whenever you guys are ready, you guys can proceed.
Ready, Janine?
Anyway, that's the big
Good
news.
morning, Scott. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, ready when you are.
Okay, great. All right, with that, we'll call the meeting for Cuyahoga County Public Works Procurement and Contracting Committee to order for Wednesday, May the 5th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Calling the roll, Mr. Tuma,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Ms. Conwell,
Present.
Ms. Baker,
Here,
Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
There is a quorum.
All right, wonderful. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment this morning?
No, Mr. Chair, no one submitted any public comment.
Okay, and if I could have approval of minutes from the April 21st, 2021 meeting.
I so move. Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Miller and a second by Councilwoman Baker to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And Madam Clerk, if you could please read the first matter referred to committee this morning.
Resolution number 2021-0113, declaring that public convenience and welfare requires resurfacing of Lake Avenue from West 117th Street to Detroit Avenue in the city of Cleveland.
Okay, and who do we have here from the administration speaking of this legislation?
Nicole English with Public Works.
Okay,
So this is welfare and convenience in a project that we're partnering with Cleveland on. They have 80% federal funding. We're going to supply the 20% match in order to rehab Lake Road from West 117th to Detroit. In addition, they are going to do another project that is going to be a pedestrian multimodal enhancement along this stretch of road. So it will also include that once it's fully completed. This is 2.7 million about in federal funds and 690,000 for county funds. Again, this is just the welfare and convenience to get us started.
okay. And what is the actual start date of this?
They are hoping to sell it this summer. They had been designing it prior to us executing this on their own as far as at risk. The city is going to be doing the design and then ODOT will construct it for them. The pavement condition is 50 for PCR, which is poor in about 6,000 vehicles a day.
Okay. Did you say the proposed completion date?
I believe it's this full year. They'll have, if as long as they get it sold with enough time, they should be able to complete it this year. If not, it may go into next year. But since we're not running the construction, I guess I don't have as close details.
Okay. And what district is that in the county?
District 3.
District 3.
Yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Sweeney already add his name? I don't see it. Okay.
I was going to
All
wait
right.
for the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay. With that, I will open the floor to any questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to Nicole, it's long overdue. It needs to be done. And partner with the city is important. So Nicole, if as the project moves forward, I know the city council and county council gets calls. Would you be the point person or could you give me the point person from the county or from the city that I could direct any calls from constituents that may come by just to take some of the burden off your plate? Is that something that you would,
Sure.
would practice?
Yeah, we can forward you a contact info for who's the project manager over at the city.
Sounds good. And Mr. Chairman, to Nicole, could you talk a little bit more about the excitement of the intermodal thing? Because it's kind of, I was briefed on it and it sounded great. So I want my colleagues to hear it as well, because it's partner with the city. We do great things together.
Yeah, so I think the way this came up is this section of Lake has been listed on the Greenways plan and also on the city's bike plan. And so when the federal aid money came about, we tried to see how we could make it all work together. And so this was kind of a good solution where we supply the local match for the roadway portion, and then the city in turn is going to handle a multimodal connection. They were doing some public meetings in order to be sure that they have the right what the residents want, and also complies with what the city planning commission wants. So they are working on some public meetings in order to confirm whether it's going to be one multimodal path on one side that's wider with some sidewalks, or also include bike lanes. They're still finalizing that piece. That will come after the roadway is completed. But I think once we're done with both of these projects, we'll have a nice complete piece of roadway here.
And Mr. Chairman, I just think it's just an expansion of all the wonderful work at Edgewater. I mean, it's just going to keep making it more friendly, more easier to get down to, and just make that portion of Cuyahoga County that much better. So I want to thank my executive and your leadership here, and my colleagues. I ask you to consider supporting this and add my name, please.
All right. If we could add Mr. Sweeney's name to that, understandably. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one, and my
Okay, Mr.
question
Miller?
is whether the number of lanes is going to be the same.
Ms. English?
Yes, they anticipate keeping the same number of lanes. There could be some changes to parking, but that's again what they're going to work out with these public meetings.
Right.
But traffic flow should remain the same.
Okay, any follow-up questions to that? Okay, seeing none. So, Ms. English, what are we looking at as far as trying to move this along with contracts and such, as far as timing goes?
I think as long as the city knows it's moving, we're okay going 3 readings, because we'll issue an agreement after that. And since they're running the construction, it doesn't hold them up.
Okay. Within that, then I'll make a motion for a second reading on this. If I could have a second.
Second, Sweeney.
Okay, we have a motion and a second from Councilman Sweeney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and 2021-0113 will move along for second reading. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the next resolution.
Resolution number 2021-0114, making an award on requisition number 4874 to Union Industrial Contractors in the amount not to exceed $3,055,480.60 for rehabilitation of Cedar Point Bridge number 00.49 over the Rocky River located in the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District in the city of North Olmsted.
Okay, and Ms. English, you can address this legislation as well?
Yep.
Okay.
Nicole English with Public Works again. So this is an award of a contract to Union Industrial Contractors for Cedar Point Road Bridge. This did come in 10% below the engineer's estimate, which was 3.4 million, and we're just a little over 3 million. There was 5 bids submitted. We are going with the lowest bid because this has 80% federal funds and 20% county funds. The ODOT sets a DBE percentage of 9%, and we don't use our county diversity goals, but the contractor is meeting the diversity goals. This is anticipated to start on 5/31, and it's scheduled to go through the end of the construction season in 22. And the bridge will be shut down. Anticipation is about mid-June. They have around 300 days that they can shut the bridge down, the contractor, in order to complete the work. So I anticipate the first year of the shut would be sort of shut down. The second year of construction will be sort of clean up, more offline work that would be getting done.
Okay. And how is this, how did this bridge come about being put on the list? Was there damage to it, or is it an older bridge, or?
It is an older bridge. It was built in 1929. It was last rehabbed in 1975, and it has a general appraisal rating of 5. So it's pretty, it was in pretty poor condition. There is some historic elements, so we had to work on, making sure that we kept in context with the park. This is in the metro parks, so we were working closely with the metro parks on the look of the new bridge. We were saving, I think, some of the sandstone. The metro parks is going to use that in the park as part of a historic kind of remedy, for us rehabbing the bridge.
Okay. And then as far as the traffic stoppage goes, are there going to be alternate routes, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, there'll be a detour. There's just under 4,000 cars a day on the bridge. So it's not a very high volume. It's more, through the park, so that we've worked with the metro parks on the detour route.
Okay. I'll open the floor to any questions.
So I have a question as to it sounds like it's on a very short timeline. Is that correct?
In order to get started, yes.
And so you said that there were 5 people that bid on it. Who were the other people that bid on it?
I'll tell you. We have Union Industrial, Shermer Construction, JD Williamson, Kokosing, and Suburban Maintenance.
Okay, thanks very much.
All right, thank you. Ms. Baker, did you have a question?
Yes, just a quick one. Nicole, you said this will be starting May 31st till the end of the construction season in 22. When is that? October, September? When do you consider the end?
We
of the
say November 1. I mean, it's really as long as weather. I think we tend to give them a little more time than they might need just to be sure they could complete. So I would anticipate, they might end a little bit sooner, but we have until 11/1 in the contract that they can go.
And how long do you anticipate the bridge to be closed and during what months?
They have 300 days and we anticipate them starting in June. So that's what we allow them to have. Now, that doesn't mean it will be closed those 300, but in the contract, they're allowed to close it up to that many days.
And it can be a week at one time and 2 months at another time? Is that what you're?
No, it should be solid. So once they close it, it'll be closed. And then once they reopen it, it should be reopened. There could be a day that they have to stripe it or something. They would have it intermittent. This is the 300 day in a row that they're allowed to close it.
And typically that would be at the very beginning when they're under construction?
Yeah, because that's when they're going to shut it down and essentially pull the old stuff out, put in the new, and then they'll open it back up and do some final touches where they might be fixing up the sidewalk. They might be painting, things like that. That's the last end of the construction that they would do.
Okay, good. Thank you. And I'd like to add my name to this if I may.
Okay, please add Ms. Baker's name to that as well. All right, any other questions from colleagues?
Yes, just one more.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
When you say that it has a rating of 5, that's on a scale from what to what?
1 to 9, where 1 is the worst and 9 is just brand new bridge. So
Okay.
we start looking, around a 6, we'll start thinking about programming. 5, we should start designing, getting ready for construction. 4 is kind of, in our mind, the worst we want to let a bridge get, and then before we're finishing it. So this is right in line with when we should do it. Now, it did get federal funding through the CEAO, so that means it ranks in the state with the County Engineers Association. That's how we got the federal funding. So, they deemed that it's, in condition that it needs to be fixed as well.
Okay. If there are no other questions, I'll make a motion to move R 2021-0014 on for second reading suspension due to the time constraints here. Do I have a
Second, Conwell.
Okay, we have a second from Councilwoman Conwell. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the next piece of legislation.
Resolution number 2021-0115, making an award on requisition number 4889 to the Vallejo Company in the amount not to exceed $3,928,757.92 for the replacement of Green Road Bridge number 07.47 adjacent to Euclid Creek and resurfacing of surrounding roadway in the city of South Euclid.
Okay, and Ms. English, you covering this one as well?
Yep.
Okay.
So this is another construction award. This is the Green Road replacement of the bridge. And then also there's resurfacing going on from Mayfield to Monticello. The reason we paired these projects together is the bridge was in really poor condition. In order to fix it, because it's quite complicated and has some sewer lines running under it, we were going to have to close it. And we had been working with the city on a resurfacing project anyhow. And so it made sense, let's pair them together while we have the road closed for the bridge. Let's also do the resurfacing. So it has a funny funding split. 50% we got issue 1 for the entire project. We have 32% in road and bridge and 18% is coming from the city of Euclid. They also got a grant from the sewer district to handle a portion of the sanitary work. So that 18%, the city is getting about 9% of it back from the sewer district. And the bridge portion is the county's responsibility. So we're funding that at 100%, but we are doing an operations job on the resurfacing where we are splitting with the city those funds. So this was a bid that came in 14% under the engineer's estimate. We had 4 bids submitted. We are going with the low bid. The prime vendor is an SBE and a WBE contractor, and they are meeting the diversity goals that were set by OPD.
Okay, What is the time frame on that for start and finish?
This one we had anticipating starting in April. I think it took a little while to get to council through the system. So I think upon approval, they will start, and the construction is showing through August of 22.
Okay. And then what, you might have said this, what was this bridge ranked as, rated as, I should say?
4 for a general appraisal rating.
Okay, any questions from my colleagues? Okay, seeing none, obviously if this is a 4 and you wanted to start in April, I would assume you're trying to move this forward sooner rather than later, Ms. English?
That would be appreciated.
Right, so I'm gonna make a motion on this, R2021-0115 for second reading suspension. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second, Nan Baker.
Okay, we have Ms. Baker seconding. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. We'll move that along for second reading suspension. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the next piece of legislation.
Resolution number 2021-0116, making an award on requisition number 4636 to Katz Construction in the amount not to exceed $4,008,200.34 for resurfacing of York Road from Pearl Road to Pleasant Valley Road in the cities of Parma and Parma Heights.
Ms. English, this is in Parma. We approve it. No, I'm teasing. If you could just explain this piece of legislation.
Another construction award. The bid came in about 10% under the engineer's estimate, which was 4.4 million. We're just over 4 million on this one. There was, how many vendors? Sorry. I want to double check. 8 bids submitted. We are going with the second lowest. The lowest bid was non-compliant on the diversity goals deemed by OPD. And so the next bid is just $20,000 over. So the recommendation is to go with the second bid, which is compliant. CATS is an SBE themselves, and they are meeting the diversity goal set by OPD. This project has 56% county funding, 26% issue 1, 11% is Parma Heights, and 5 is Parma. This is the worst road in Parma Heights. We've been talking to the mayor for years to get this project done. And so I know they're really happy that we're finally going forward with it. We had applied for additional issue 1 funds. This project was the last one to make the cut. And so it didn't get fully funded, but we all agreed that the project was important enough that we would take the 26%, at least that gives us some grant money. And then we would supplement, and the city would supplement to get the project done. And then it came in under the engineer's estimate. So that's helpful as well.
Okay, yeah, this is a much needed project. Having driven in that area, I can tell you. I'm going to add my name to this as well. Are there any questions from my colleagues on it?
Move approval.
Okay. Okay, and then what are we looking for as far as time?
They'd like to start as soon as possible too. With this weather getting nice, our contractors are ready to go.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion for second reading suspension on this so this can get moving along. I know they've been waiting a long time for this.
I'll second, Nan Baker.
Okay, we have a second from Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor say aye for moving.
Aye.
Aye.
Move along. Aye. All right. The ayes have it. I'm sorry, opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Thanks. Next piece of legislation here, Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2021-0117, making an award on requisition number 4957 to C&K Industrial Services in the amount not to exceed $1,906,212.50 for cleaning and televising of sewers in various communities for the period 6/1/2021 through 5/31/2023.
Okay, and Ms. English, if you could explain this resolution, please.
This is award of the cleaning and televising contract that we use to supplement our sanitary division. So we go out with this every year to year and a half, depending on how we go through the funds. This is the low bidder. 3 bids were submitted. The engineer's estimate was 3 million. This is coming in just under 2 million. And any monies that are used out of this contract get billed back to the cities that they're used in. So that comes out of their sanitary fees. So this is just beyond supplementing what we can do internally. There was a diversity goal set. that they had asked for a waiver, but we're asking for an award because I believe all the vendors asked for a waiver. And so we are needing to go forward with this contract. So they did commit to, I think, let me just double check the full values. They requested a waiver for MBE and WBE, or MBE, just MBE. So they are giving 15% to SBE, 6% to WBE, and another 2%, so 8% to WBE. So they're hitting 23%, but it's just not 24, 30 that they had requested. So they're slightly under the diversity goal, but as was the other two bidders.
So we had 3 bidders in total.
Correct.
Okay, is that about normal for the sanitary?
Yeah, so this is a pretty specialized service. They need certain trucks in order, these jet trucks, to do the cleaning and televising. So it's a limited supply of people that do this work.
Mhm. Okay. And then how many municipalities are currently in a contract with the county to be doing the sanitation viewing and such,
I
telemonitoring?
might be off by 1 or 2, but 40 is the number we've been using lately, including Lorraine County. We have a contract with them, and we also do some work for RTA.
Okay, excellent. Questions for my colleagues?
Yes,
Just
I
one,
have a question.
Okay, I heard Ms. Baker first and then Mr. Miller. Ms. Baker?
just curious how the estimate was at 3 million and it came in at under 2. That's pretty far away from what the estimator thought it would be.
Ms. English?
Yeah, so this one's kind of different because it's not an actual project, it's just type of work. And so we submit quantities and then types of work that they might be doing. And so actually the way they bid the cost they're going to charge us per type of work really lower than what we had thought. So, we use the past year's contracts as a basis, and they came in lower than they did the years before. So, we got better pricing, I guess. I don't know if they're hungrier for the work or why, but it's different than the ones that I previously talked about, because those are actual projects with quantities. They know what they're building. This is more just on a linear footage of cleaning, a linear footage of televising. So they can charge us what they want, and it came in under what we had anticipated.
If I may follow.
Sure.
So is there any concern that, only because they're really dramatically lower than the estimate, that they may not have budgeted enough and they run short? Or what happens in a case like that where it's really undetermined?
No, I mean, they have to, they have to charge us what they agreed to charge us. So they're going with those rates. C&K has done this work for us in the past. We have been happy with them. I don't think we are going to have a quality issue. They maybe just knew that there's a couple other people that were looking at this bid this time and wanted to be sure that they were competitive.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Miller?
And a strong example of bipartisanship. My questions were the same as Ms. Baker's.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Appreciate that.
That's scary.
Well, what's scary is it was $1 million off. Okay.
Yeah, bothered me too.
Okay. With that, any further questions? Okay, and then Ms. English, as far as time constraints on this, we're okay, or we need to move along on this?
No, we have June 1 is the start date, so I think we're fine with 3 readings on this one.
Okay. Okay. So then I'll make a motion for second reading on this.
I'll second.
We have a second from, I think, either Councilman Miller, Councilwoman Baker. We'll go with Mr. Miller just because I heard it, I think, first. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay, and the ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you could please move on to the next piece of legislation.
Resolution number 2021-0118. A resolution making an award on requisition number 5017 with WB Mason Company in a total amount not to exceed $870,000 for furnishing and delivery of reprographic paper to various county departments and agencies.
Okay, and who doesn't think of Bill Mason when they see this name come up every time? Come on. Madam Clerk. I'm sorry, Miss English, an explanation on this piece of legislation?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Melanie say
Oh, okay.
our fiscal administrator started, and then I will assist if we need to.
All right. Hi, Melanie. How you doing today?
Good morning. Melanie Say, Department of Public Works. This request is just our tri-annual request to furnish copy paper to various department agencies in various sizes. There was one bid that came in, and it was just a slight increase from the previous contract year. And I'm welcome to any questions.
Okay. I'll open the floor to my colleagues on this one. Any questions?
I have one question.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
My question is, I know that earlier in the year, we did a contract, I think of $3 million or so with the same firm for
Yeah.
for various kind of paper supplies and office products. And my question is why this one is done as a separate contract rather than being folded into that larger contract.
Okay, Ms. Say?
So the office supply contract and the paper contract has always been separate. We have not traditionally went out together for these services. And it's also because this paper is actually charged back, and it's a particular consumer, post-consumer item that we need as far as the paper, the type of paper we require. So it's just never been traditionally mashed with that actual item.
And I think there's some people that would be interested in just the paper bid that would not go after a full office supply contract. And so the idea was you open it up to a little bit more competition. It happens to be the same company this time, but it could be different companies that you might get wanting to pursue the paper that would not supply the rest of the office supplies. So I know OPD is the one who puts out the office supply bid. So I'm not sure if Lenore has any more comments on that, but we do the paper one since the print shop is under Public Works.
Mhm. Okay, any other questions?
Briefly, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Sweeney? Yep,
Thank you. Just what's the length of the contract?
question.
3 years.
3 years? Okay.
Yes.
And that's how it's always been?
Yes, usually 3 years, and we always have an amendment clause if we need to, but it's usually 3 years and then competitively bid again.
Got it. And Mr. Chairman, just for my own thought process, is that the norm for the county, how they do business, or this specific to this contract? For regular and routine our contracts?
We do a lot 3 years. I mean, that's our general services. It just seems that the amount of work it takes to get the bid out and collect the bids and put the contract through. I mean, it takes, good 6 months probably to get through all of that. So 3 years is kind of a good window to give it time and then have enough time to start the next one. So we see it common in a lot of things we do.
No, absolutely, Mr. Chairman. When I started way back when, it was every year was redundant. Then we moved to 2 years, and then we moved to 2 years with two 1-year options. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, but very comfortable with the 3-year. It seems a proper amount of time and keeps the bureaucracy of redundancy to a minimal, or to minimal. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Any other questions?
One quick question.
Okay, Ms. Baker?
Thank you. So has WB Mason always been the supplier of the paper? There only was one bid, which was them. Has it always been just one bid with only them, or are there others that are aware? Have we reached out to other companies to make sure they know that this is going out to bid?
Ms.
So
English?
the last contract, it was WB Mason, but prior to WB Mason, it was Joshen. So it has been out to other vendors. I think one of the issues is that with our copy paper, not only do we require the people to deliver to the buildings, but a lot of times they have to come in the building and deliver to the actual different departments. So some of the paper suppliers have a limitation because they're used to just dropping off the paper at the dock. So with our request and then our requirement, we need them to actually bring it to the particular departments. So I think that kind of limits a lot of the vendors.
If I may follow, so given that we know there's an obstacle for others to bid, and we're already using WB Mason for our other supplies, maybe, although it's 3 years from now, maybe we should consider putting that into the larger bid and maybe getting this price down.
Yes, we can definitely entertain that. Thank you.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you for that suggestion. I have a question, either Miss Say or Miss English. So as far as the paper that's being used, is this strictly for county administrative offices and buildings, or is this going to the courts as well?
It's all over. It goes to the courts as well. It's all county agents.
Okay, lots of paper there. I know that. Okay, any additional questions? Okay, with that, what is the contract? When is it supposed to run? If you could refresh my memory for when it begins.
The last contract ended April 30th, and so this contract has a start date of May 1st.
May 1st, it happened, all right?
Correct.
Yeah, I'm good, see?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Miller,
may I ask just one additional question?
Sure.
Which is, how much, if any, reduction in paper use are we seeing as we move to a more digital world?
So during the COVID, we actually had the print shop manager look at that, and we've had very little reduction in paper usage right now. I think the thought process is, even though just say the lawyers or the general staff of court may have been remote, the actual administrative assistants and the people who are actually utilizing the paper are actually in the building. And so we didn't see a big reduction in the paper so far. With a continued look at remote, we may see some, but this past year we did not see much reduction.
Well, I think the move toward doing things digitally rather than on paper is independent of remoteness and should be proceeding. So let's keep a watch on that.
I appreciate those comments, Mr. Miller. With that, if there are no further questions, Ms. Say, I'm assuming that you'll want this on second reading suspension since we're past due on the start date.
Yes.
Okay, so I will make that motion to move this along on second reading suspension, 00118. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second from Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and the ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you could please read the next piece of legislation.
Ordinance number 2021-0006, enacting section 202.01 of the county code to identify the responsibilities of the Department of Purchasing in accordance with section 10.01 of the county charter.
Okay, thank you. And who is here to speak to this legislation today? I think
Mike Chambers.
Mr. Chambers. Okay, and it's my understanding too that the companion piece to this legislation went through Human Resources yesterday and moved along on second reading. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. Yes.
Okay. If you could, we had this in committee last time, and if you could just kind of update us as to where we're at, if for those who weren't participating in yesterday's committee.
Certainly. I just have two quick things I can share real quick. Hopefully it'll make it easier. We'll go here. So hopefully you can see what I have right now.
Yes.
Basically, let me go right. This is the way it currently is. This is our high level org chart. And the way it's set up right now, procurement diversity still is under the fiscal officer. And our intentions is, based on the need and for diversity and trying to make sure we meet the mission that we're set out to do. The intention was to split this into two departments. And yesterday, as indicated, this department right here, equity and inclusion, was approved along with a companion piece of information that kind of changes the references of procurement and diversity and changes it into purchasing and equity. And today now is what we're now recommending before you is to create the Department of Purchasing. And once again, both of these departments, the leadership will become before council for confirmation. And we believe that this will really enable both departments to excel and the leadership wouldn't be pulled in spending more time in one area, especially, some of the challenges we've had over the last year and some of them coming up. And this way we can focus solely on this important issue of equity and inclusion, and therefore we're asking for approval.
Okay. Yeah, I think we had a good discussion last time, and I know there's been good discussion in HR as well since the last time we met. So are there any questions from my colleagues on this?
Nope.
I have a question, Chair.
Okay, Ms. Baker?
I'm really, I guess I'm not really understanding this whole scope. I mean, I think that there is some dollar issues here. I think can you run that down? I think it's a 500,000 cost to split these two. And
No.
And then there's some hiring that needs to be done in both, because we now need a new director in purchasing. Can you I don't really have the full picture of what we're doing.
Okay,
Sure.
Mr. Chambers, if maybe explanation a little bit of the finances, how this impacts both.
Right. Currently, yeah, absolutely. The Department of Equity Inclusion has a $500,000 funding increase that was approved in the current budget. And that was geared to, satisfy and commit to satisfying some of the recommendations in the disparity study. And that was to hire a director and to hire some additional inclusion officers so that we can actually expand and do additional outreach. The purchasing department, there will be no change in that budget. That budget will remain the same. So it's only the equity department that has been increased. So, obviously the director, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, isn't the purchasing director going to need to be replaced because our current purchasing director is going to the equity and inclusion?
Right, but as I indicated, the budget of purchasing will remain the same. In the equity and inclusion department, there is a director budget that's included with the new money.
Got it.
So really, that's all part of the the $500,000.
And the 300,000, what was the equity study cost? Was that 300,000?
I don't have that exact number. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if my colleague Lenore is on.
Good morning, Lenore Lockett, through the chair. The equity study was less than 300,000, like 289 or 286. I can find the exact number.
Okay. I'm not sure. I guess I still have some reservations about having two separate purchasing departments, and that we have two separate purchasing directors. That they need to come together and make sure that things aren't slowed down because of maybe differences. We just went through a whole public works where we were double checking all the diversity pieces to make sure that everyone met requirements. And that seemed to go pretty smoothly. So I don't know. I'm not convinced that this is something that is needed in order to improve upon what we're doing.
Hitchhiking off of what Ms. Baker said, Mr. Chambers, if you could maybe provide an explanation as to what does occur, what would the process be between the two directors if there's a contract that comes forward and there's a question of diversity and there's a disagreement? How does that play out in practicality?
In practicality, the equity inclusion officer will be the new director of that department, will be the one setting and maintaining those goals. Ultimately, I'm assuming if there's any disputes, they'll come up through me. But clearly, the mission of both departments are separate, yet they do share a lot of information. Too many times we get Office of Procurement and Diversity, which is the title, and everyone just refers to it as purchasing. We lose the equity and inclusion part right now, and in everything that's going on with the executive orders, with the disparity study, now is the time to make sure we identify and give it its own identity. And that was the crux of my conversation yesterday, that we've handcuffed the director of OPD because so much is going on the purchasing side, and one person, and she does have staff that's working continuously on the disparity. But in order to make a true difference, the disparity study called for additional resources and also for the, the director to get in there, in my humble opinion, to free her up so she can focus 100%, or he, whoever, ultimately is going to be on these departments. And that's what the crux of this whole thing is. We get tied into the purchasing component only when you hear OPD. Everyone loses sight of the equity. And to answer your original question, the equity side will be the one setting the goals, will be doing the outreach, we'll be looking at the small set asides, looking at the forecast, which is very difficult to do right now when you're managing two departments, in my opinion.
Okay. Ms. Baker, do you have any follow-up with that, or?
Well, only that we just approved all of the public works, that every one of those we were asking, what is the equity piece of this? What components, and were they met to make sure that what we want to include is included? What would be the difference of what contracts would we see that would be changed from what we're doing now?
So the difference is the inclusion we're not doing because of the staff and the resources, the outreach. We have a lot of small businesses out there that we need to get registered. And by doing some of these executive orders and working with the departments on their forecasting, so we know what's the next 24 months of contracts that you have coming up, this department can go out there and start reaching out to the community, to small businesses, minorities, women businesses, and try and get them signed up so that we can start including them in future contracts. And that's where we're falling short, because many other communities of our size have a much bigger department than what we have right now. City of Cleveland, I believe, has a lot more people. And this is what we're trying to do. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, you don't think that we can work within the framework we have and maybe add an outreach piece and hire perhaps that person or two other people to be within the structure that we have, and their dedicated mission is outreach? We can't work within this framework that we have that without having to actually have another whole division.
I truly believe we've given it a good run. We've done a good job. But if you look at the recommendations now with the education, the additional outreach, everything that's laid out in the disparity study now, and if we're going to make a change and a true improvement, we need to do this. So the staff we have now and the one leadership over both of these departments, remember, the priority right now is procurement for when you're the department, because that seems to be where all the needs are. I want to be able to break that out and let a true purchasing manager, department lead handle purchasing, and let's focus on equity 100%. It needs its own identity, and that's ultimately what we're saying.
Well, okay,
So Mr. Chambers, are you trying to say that what the county is attempting to do is kind of address some of these issues on the front end prior to bids going out for contracts, so that there's education in the community with contractors and things like that, and informational sessions or that sort of thing?
Everything. If we look at the disparity study recommendations and everything what the executive orders are doing, we've now empowered, we've empowered now this new department with executive orders. And to meet these challenges and recommendations in the disparity study, we have to now attract, obviously, small businesses, minority women businesses. And in order to do that, we have to do continued outreach. And there's both education to the public and to county employees. There's a lot of education on disparity and inclusion issues that we want to roll out as well. And that's why the additional resources are needed. And going back to what I said earlier, some of the others, City of Cleveland has a larger department than we do. Other areas have more employees than we have. I think this is going to give us a good fighting chance. And by giving it its own identity is what I'm keep going back to, will allow it to focus solely on that mission and not get tied up into other areas that are drawing people's time in the procurement side of things.
Okay. Any additional questions from other colleagues?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Ms. Conwell?
To the chair, to Mr. Chambers, it was stated in one of the previous presentations that the equity and inclusion, this department will cover all areas. For example, health and human services. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I just need to understand if, and I don't know if it's just on the procurement part, but but HHS is planning on a number 2, a director under David Merriman, okay, an assistant number 2, which is primarily that position is going to be to look at equity and inclusion for the HHS umbrella. How will that person work in this? Who will they report to and how does that work?
Well,
Mr. Chambers?
just to go back to, yes, to the chair, to the councilwoman, going back to the recommendations and the executive orders about the outreach and the contracts and identifying contracts for the next 24-month period, HHS is a pretty big entity.
Yes.
One of the things we've always seen with a lot of HHS monies, it goes to nonprofits in situations like that. I envision that maybe we can't, implement diversity with the nonprofits, but I do like to see if we can't have the nonprofits implement some diversity within their own ranks and file. But that person that they're hiring will work closely with this equity and inclusion department, as would members of Public Works, as would members of my own staff, the prosecutor, you name it, we're going to go down the line. That'll be their lead person, most likely. HHS is very big, and I think it makes sense to have a dedicated resource over there.
So they would have no reporting structure to the director over equity and inclusion.
No, we would view them as a partner and as a team member. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Chambers, is there any concern over, creating more bureaucracy, being, issues with, efficiency and getting things done for contractors, to move through the process? Because I know with some of the issues we've had with the ERP moving things along, I just don't want any issues, because currently the way it's set up, it's for the most part pretty efficient. I mean, there are some issues, but I just want to avoid having that with another department to go through, I guess, is my question.
No, I think we're going to improve upon that. And once again, the identity of this department and everything that we're empowering with, they will make a difference. The staff, the resources. Yes.
All right. Any additional questions?
Just
Mr.
one,
Chairman?
Chair, if I may.
Okay. We'll get Mr. Sweeney and then Ms. Baker.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to the director. I couldn't agree more. The short time I've been down here, there seems to be some opportunity for growth and getting things working more smoothly. And as I said before in a couple of these meetings, this is just what's been recommended. I'm going to support you giving it the effort, and I believe it will enhance and improve the flow of the business, but also, and most importantly, the inclusion and the diversity that we all seek and desire. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me have that soliloquy.
All right. Thank you. That's a big word, Marty.
I pulled it out. It was a tough one.
That's all right. It worked. All right. Ms. Baker.
Only that, and I understand the mission and the emphasis and what we think it's going to take to do this. There's no real debate on that. I guess I just am questioning whether we need to create a whole nother department, and that we have under this structure that you're showing us a communications piece, that all we have under it now is communications and media relations. I mean, couldn't we drop that down and expand the communication piece so that if outreach and education and, getting in front of it and all that, you just don't think that we can do it with the existing structure that we have now, which is a pretty big structure. I mean, we have a lot of people in place, a lot of moving parts. To take that out, to me, almost isolates them instead of being part of the process. No concerns about that.
Mr. Chambers.
I think communications is always a big part in everything we do, but to have a department focused solely on equity and inclusion, I mean, communications for the county is every area. I've watched this department now over the, my short term here in a year and a half, and I truly believe that once again, Office of Procurement and Diversity, everyone loses the diversity component of that, even though they are working hard. Now is the time to expand it. Now is the time to focus on the recommendations in the disparity study. We've budgeted the $500,000 and give it its own identity and give it the chance to succeed. The manager of this department, who's done a great job overseeing both of them, spends a great majority of time, unfortunately, on the procurement side. And we need to let this let it have its own identity and let it blossom. And right now, I just feel we're holding it back. I mean, this is my recommendation. I truly believe that it'll make a big difference.
Ms. Baker, you have a follow-up or comment?
You know, not really. I am concerned about the added bureaucracy. I think that we've done a pretty good job just based on today's votes of making sure that diversity and all the parts that we ask, and they all have been, I mean, Nicole was very thorough in making sure that every one of those met the criteria. And expanding upon that, yes, you know, I don't see why we shouldn't be doing that in order to answer the study. I just don't know if we need to take the extreme step of making a whole new department. That's my only reservation.
But if I may add, I mean, we are doing a great job, but in order to make a difference, we need to do a better job. And I think it's going to set us up for that success. That comes right out of the recommendation from the disparity. Add more staff. And that's what we're trying to do and give them the chance, because we're not competing with our peers at City of Cleveland who have a lot more staff than we do. And we have done a great job so far, but in order to really make a dent and really make a change in inclusion efforts in the county, I believe this is our best effort.
This disparity study didn't say to create a whole new department though, did it?
It said to add additional staff resources. But when I look at additional staff resources, I'm also looking at the resources of the director who's leading the current situation. And I do see, especially in the last year and probably the last several years, we focus more on the procurement side. They've done a great job, but in order to make that difference, we need them to focus solely on the inclusion side and work obviously hand in hand with the purchasing department. And I just truly believe that this will get us in that direction.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I appreciate having a chance to.
All right, no problem. Mr. Chambers, just if you could just refresh, I think you did do this last time. How many additional staff members would you have in the equity and inclusion department?
So right now, there'll be a total of three officers and inclusion officers and a new director. And then now there'll be additional staff that we're going to be moving over that are already under the existing Office of OPD staff. So we will be moving them over. They'll continue their
Would those
inclusion
people be replaced in OPD, or is that planning those positions to be just eliminated?
No. There's no positions being eliminated. We're moving the existing equity and inclusion team from the diversity team from OPD into this new equity department. I mean, I can pull up the org chart again. I shared it with you the last time. There's what will be left in procurement will be the agenda team, which is the board of control side, as well as then the purchasing buyers. And the new department will have obviously the existing diversity team from procurement, along with hiring 3 additional staff members.
Okay, I appreciate that.
One brief one, if you don't mind. Sorry for the last second. It seems like this is going to move forward. So with that assumption, Director, we know the sequence of the 2 pieces of legislation have to be in the proper order. What is your time for kick if this passes in the next, say by June 15th, if this passes, when is your kickoff or go live with this new split separate departments?
As soon as possible. I mean, after yesterday's hearing and moving out of committee, I've already asked Lenore to temporarily let's start winding things down, and we're going to have an interim person start. They've been coordinating with each other now for the last couple of months. We've been slowly starting that.
As soon as legislation is passed and signed by the executive, it's going to be a go.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
We've already started.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions?
Just a technical one, if I may.
Okay, I heard Ms. Baker and then Ms. Conwell. Yes.
Who do you want to go first?
Ms. Baker.
Okay. Mike, will this be given the same overview of both what's presented here in Public Works and what's been presented in HR? Will we be able to see both rationales before we vote for full council?
I'm not sure what you mean by that, Councilwoman.
Well, I think there's members that aren't in either committee that may not know what we're talking about. And they're asked to vote on it. That's all. And will you be giving a presentation to all of council to explain this? Because this is a pretty big deal, adding another department.
No, I believe yesterday the equity was already referred back to council, and based on that, then today this would be referred to. This would be the final presentation, but I'd be happy to meet with anyone and discuss with them further if they like.
All right, so those council members that aren't in either committee, they would have to reach out to you to make sure they understand what it is that we're proposing.
I do believe I've made it clear, though, that if we're creating Department of Equity, we're obviously eliminating Office of Procurement Diversity. So yesterday we had a pretty good committee hearing, and I believe we were well represented by council. And today really is just, we wouldn't be doing today if yesterday didn't happen. So yesterday it was approved. Today is just the last piece in the puzzle. So, and they were full aware of that.
There were other council members in the committee yesterday outside of just the members?
Yeah, I believe we had a pretty full house, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. I'm still a little hesitant on it, but to move it out of committee, I will be supporting it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Baker. Ms. Conwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair to Mr. Chambers, do you have, I apologize. Are there any projections you have regarding how many additional businesses could be increased by this, by the outreach?
I really believe, but what the executive did with the forecasting gives the new department some groundwork to do to start going out and seeing what's out there. A lot of times when we set goals, if there's nobody registered in those areas, our goals get impacted. And Lenore could speak a little bit more on that, but the goal is to have, see what we have, and now over the next 6 months, 8 months, start reaching out and getting them signed up, so that when we come up and say, hey, next year at this time, HHS is forecasting this, Public Works is forecasting that, they can at least start doing the outreach to these people and have them registered so that they can have an opportunity. And even more so, if we increase small business set-asides, where we're solely awarding to small businesses, I mean, that's even a bigger opportunity. So there are some good selling features in outreach that can be done. We just need to have everyone contribute, and they've already been starting to. Lenore's been gathering information from departments on their forecasts to start that process. So I would hope we could increase significantly. I mean, that's our goal, and that's the goal of the disparity study, is for us to increase in those areas.
And moving forward, possibly under new leadership in the future, would this department be in jeopardy of resorting back? Or if we're establishing now, would it be kind of cemented into the county structure?
My understanding it'll be with the county structure, and once again, both directors would have to come before council for confirmation if anything were to happen or replace. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and thank you, Ms. Conwell. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Knowing what the status was of the companion legislation yesterday, moving forward on second reading, I'm going to make a motion to move this along for second reading as well. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second from both Councilwoman Conwell and Mr. Sweeney. Conwell. Conwell. Where was I? So all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we'll move this legislation forward as well. Is there anything else?
Added, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we'd like to add Ms. Conwell's name to that.
Me as well, Martin Sweeney.
Mr. Sweeney's name will be added as well. Okay, thank you. And with that, is there any other miscellaneous business before the committee this morning? And seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Could I have a second? I have a motion to second from Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And Contracting and Procurement Committee will adjourn at 10:59 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for a thorough discussion. Thank you.
Good.